Wildomar, California is quickly becoming one of the Temecula Valley's quickest growing cities. So today I thought I would share with you 10 facts about Wildomar, California, some of them historical, some of them just interesting. I can't wait to share them with you. Let's dive in. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Lewis, your local Temecula Valley realtor, and this channel is dedicated to all things living in the Temecula Valley, from new construction tours to neighborhood spotlights to new things coming here to the valley. I want you and your family to know exactly what it's like living here before you make the move. So these are some of my favorite videos to make. It is really fun getting to do some additional research about 10 facts about some of the cities here in the Temecula Valley. And today we are going to spotlight Wildomar, California. Maybe you've never even heard of it, but it is a more rural area of the Temecula Valley that has resisted a little bit of the commercialization that has happened in Murrieta and Temecula and Menifee and some of those other places. So feels a little bit more like the Wild West currently for our area, but does have some great pieces of land to purchase and is being developed over time. So I'm really excited to share with you 10 facts about Wildomar, California. Fact number one is where Wildomar got its name. So it is actually a combination of three of the founders from early in the 1800s when it was primarily a ranching community. So you've got the first part, the W-I-L, coming from William Collier. You've got the second part, the Doe, coming from Donald Graham. And you've got the third part, the last part, the M-A-R, coming from Margaret Collier Graham. So you take Wildomar, and that's where you get the name Wildomar, California. Super fun one, super interesting, something I didn't even know, so I wanted to share that one with you. Fact number two is that Wildomar was almost a major railroad hub. And so in the 1880s, it was part of the California Railway system. It was part of the Santa Fe Railway and was a major stop for things here in the area. And that probably would have caused the Temecula Valley to grow much faster had that survived. But due to some flooding in the late 1800s, it wiped out a lot of the tracks, and that railway system was abandoned and actually caused the area here not to be developed until fairly recently here. And so kind of interesting that the area could have been much bigger than it was much earlier on had that survived and existed. Fact number three is that Wildomar is actually one of California's newest city. That may seem like a surprise to some of you that live here in the area and feel like it's been around forever, and it has been in a sense. It was actually previously an unincorporated part of Riverside County, and it was still called Wildomar at that time, but it actually became a city in 2008, which is one of the most recent here in California. So fun little fact that while it feels like it's been here forever, to some of us that have lived here for a long time, it wasn't made official until 2008. Fact number four is that it is home to the historic Wildomar Cemetery. Now, this is a cemetery that goes back to the late 1800s. And so it's a really old cemetery, especially for the Temecula Valley that feels like it just really boomed here since the 90s. But this one goes back even 100 years before that to about the 1890s. It has many different pioneers from the early settlement here, as well as military veterans that have, dated all the way back to the late 1800s. Fact number five is that it had a boom and then bust in the 1800s. And again, that alludes back to the railway system that I alluded to a little bit earlier. So this was becoming a boom town because of the railway system. It had a hotel, a post office, schools were being put into place. Population growth started to grow in Wildomar, California, but due to the floods in the late 1800s that wiped away the railroad system, which was the main line of transportation, and eventually that caused jobs to leave the area, causing a loss in population. So it became a bust until it was revived about 100 years later. So it's once a town that was thriving and had a huge, bright future ahead of it. Floods came, washed that away. It sat dormant for some time and now is primed for more real estate boom, some population growth as the Temecula Valley has continued to grow. Fact number six is that it is in an earthquake zone. So if you live in California, you're like, duh, earthquake zone all over the place. But Wildomar is in the Lake Elsinore fault zone and does experience some of those earthquakes from time to time. So not unusual to feel an earthquake and feel some of the shakes here and there, but we've really never seen anything recorded here in Wildomar much more than a 4.9, and that was back in the 80s. So it's been quite some time since anything major has happened here. But fun fact, it's right there on the fault line and makes for some fun days with a little bit of shakes. Fact number 7 is that it's one of California's fastest growing cities. If you live here in the area, you may look at it and go, wow, it is nowhere near as developed as some of the surrounding areas, Murrieta, Temecula, Winchester, Menifee, but it is growing quickly, and the population has nearly doubled since the early 2000s. And no, it's not at 100,000 like its surrounding towns, but it is growing and construction is happening. So many landowners there have sold off to developers who have started to build some bigger neighborhoods there and started to commercialize it a little bit, bringing in some commercial and retail spaces and really starting to build some of that up. So there are plans in the works to continue that growth as time goes on. However, it's just taking a little bit longer. But as Murrieta and Temecula have just about been fully built out, that's putting pressure on especially areas like Menifee, just a little bit further north, which is definitely one of the biggest boom towns in Southern California, but it's now putting pressure into that Wildomar area to continue to grow. And there's been some local resistance against it. They've really loved the small town feel, the wide open spaces, the large lots that have come with Wildomar. But eventually commercialization is pushing its way in there, and we'll start to see some more residential developments, some more businesses coming into the area. Fact number 8 is that Wildomar used to be part of Murrieta and Temecula. So again, this was prior to 2008, an unincorporated part of Riverside County. And so that meant that Murrieta and Temecula basically had control of what happened here in the area of Wildomar. And so that's really what pushed for it to become its own city over time, was that the locals in the area really wanted some control over some of their own things. They didn't want to, necessarily rely on different areas to have control. Because again, there is a different feel from Murrieta and Temecula to Wildomar. It just feels like a completely different city. So they wanted that independence, and that's what led to it becoming its own city in 2008. Fact number 9 is that Wildomar borders the Santa Rosa Plateau. It's one of Southern California's most scenic preserves and features, again, hiking trails, plateaus, you've got vernal pools, you've actually got some adobe houses there that date back as far as the 1840s. So it's a little bit of a hike to get there, but you can get there and see some structures that have been standing for a very long time, some of the oldest structures in Southern California. So it is a great place to get outdoors and go adventure. You've got some trails that you can take your dogs on, you can ride horses, you can mountain bike, you can hike, you can run, and you can visit some of these really cool areas along with some really beautiful scenery. So Wildomar butts right up against that, and you can get in there and experience some of the outdoors. Fact number 10, and maybe this one is new to you if you live here in the area, but Wildomar has some ties actually back to the Civil War. Believe it or not, we've got ties back to the Civil War here in Wildomar. Wildomar was actually part of the Butterfield Overland Mail Route, which ran through the area in the mid-1800s, and was actually a mail route that was used to deliver news across the country prior to the Civil War. And so a lot of history passed through here through the mail prior to the Civil War and even after the war. And many people who settled here were actually Union and Confederate veterans who moved across the country after the war for just a complete lifestyle change. So again, we've got some cool history that dates all the way back to the Civil War. All right, guys, that's it for our 10 facts about Wildomar, California. Some of these were super new and interesting to me, which I absolutely love to dig into the history of the area that we live in. So I hope you found today's content at least entertaining, hopefully helpful for you, and gave you a little bit of the insight into what Wildomar, California is like, at least in some of that historical aspect. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you would like some information about moving to the Temecula Valley or Wildomar in general, go ahead and pick up the phone. We've got our phone number. You can call, you can text, you can shoot us an email, or you can even use the link below to schedule a Zoom call with a member of my team. We can give you all of the up-to-date information, walk you through exactly what it's like living here in the Temecula Valley. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.